Regena, welcome to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I have to tell you this story.
Please. I'm so ready. And hi. And thank you so much for having me here, Daniela. It's a pleasure.
It is such a full circle moment because it was about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking with some of my girlfriends and I realized I kind of had this. It was right around the time I turned 40. So I don't know if this is common for women right when they turn 40, but I just had this kind of awakening moment and realized, wow, I've been living my life in a very masculine way. Numbers, spreadsheets, goals, hustle, getting everything done. And I was sharing this with one of my girlfriends. And the first thing that she did was recommend your book.
Wow.
And I was like, I can't even say that word. I was like, why are you telling me to read a book called Pussy? Like, this is so crazy. And so I read it. Just the first page jumping in, and there's so much female empowerment. There's so much just on a global scale of the state of women in general and about women with it's so much deeper than what one's mind initially thinks of,
yes, very good, accurate observation. I mean, if you think about it, a culture that's designed to keep a woman away from her power would have to disconnect her from the source of her power.
Yeah.
If we were permitted to be as freely connected with our bodies, our pussies, our ability to create life, our ability to experience pleasure, the world would not look the way it looks. But women are really, basically, we have our wings clipped. When we don't, if we aren't even taught the word for the part of our body that is the most essentially feminine and our power source. People use all kinds of crazy little nicknames like your little pee-pee or your front bottom, or sometimes people don't even have a name for it, so it's
your privates,
Exactly.
So I read your book. I dove in. I loved it. I had my husband read your book.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I started telling my one-on-one clients. So I remember sitting at the coffee table. There were probably 10 of them over. And I was like, guys, look, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm learning about the feminine. I read this book. Don't worry. I'm never going to be talking about pussy on the podcast. Here I am. But I was like, but this is really what is going on. This is what I'm reading. This is what I'm loving. This is the work that I'm doing. Fast forward to September, I bought, I think 35 women copies of the book.
Wow.
And they were all like, oh, I'm going to buy this for every woman in my life.
Wow.
And now here you are on the podcast. So I feel like it's been this really beautiful evolution of myself, really, of me just being more comfortable with who I am, being more comfortable in my pleasure. And I have a long way to go in that journey. But I think it's so cool to see just the growth that's happened in just a year.
Amazing growth. And here's the thing that I love about your story. Well, first of all, I love that it led to you and I connecting. That's so meaningful to me. And thank you. But what I love about it is as soon as you began to connect with a part of yourself that you were like, whoa, this is powerful. This is beginning to recalibrate my nervous system and balance my masculine and my feminine. So I'm not overusing that masculine part of me. This is happening. The first thing you do, you tell all of your friends about it, all of your clients about it, and you immediately want to uplift others, which is amazing. And it's just such a tribute to you and the woman that you are.
Well, one of the things, there's a lot that I loved about your book that really resonated with me.
Yeah.
But something that really stuck with me was this concept of sister goddess activism. And really, in the spa industry, I was just talking with someone that I met on LinkedIn, and it was just kind of a casual conversation. And they're like, oh yeah, in the spa industry, that everyone's just so catty and all the women are out to get one another. And I was like, that's actually not my experience at all. And, just the fact that people think that, and I'm sure there are instances that unfortunately that happens, but when women come together and support one another, it is such a beautiful thing. And just the power, the growth, the confidence, what we're able to achieve. So you had this whole section in the book about that, when a woman is feeling down. And sometimes when she's so down, it takes another woman to be able to lift her up and remind her of who she is.
Yes.
So how did you come up with that? Or is that your life experience or?
Thank you for asking. I think that it was really through, teaching tens of thousands of women over the decades, I began to notice that sistering is a really important aspect to a woman's mental health, sense of well-being, planting her in a community of support so that, sometimes we lose the way towards our dreams, but then another woman can reflect those dreams back to us and we can get back on the path. And there are two aspects of it that I noticed. One is that how transformative it is when a woman can just be transparent with other women and she can unburden her heart and be received, not fixed, not criticized, not coached, but just received. That allows her to find her next steps on her pathway. Like she's like, oh, another woman has been where I've been or feels what I'm feeling. Like I don't feel so isolated. Because I think one of the great epidemics of this time is loneliness, women feeling disenfranchised and disconnected and lonely. It's almost every woman that I meet feels that she isn't met in the most essential ways. So a woman having those connections is extremely powerful, especially as she's living courageously towards her dreams and desires. But there's another aspect of it, which is perhaps even more powerful, which is when we are able to hold space for another woman in whatever way, whether it's a friend who's going through something, or whether it's, for example, serving the world in some wonderful way, making sure that girls get the education they need, or serving on a board or mentoring. Like when we participate in Sister Goddess activism, it takes our attention off ourselves. And when we have our attention on ourselves, we are criticizing ourselves, judging ourselves, wondering if we're pretty enough or too fat or too thin or we're getting too old or whatever, those things that run through a woman's mind. Instead of having our attention on self-doubt or self-criticism, we have our attention on taking another woman higher, and that takes us higher.
What you just said reminded me of your dedication in the book.
I'm
just going to read it real quick. It says, I dedicate this book to the women who will never hear of it, never even imagine it. Women who are currently living in the darkest corners of the world, whether inner or outer, who cannot even dream of the luxury to investigate the topics examined in the pages that follow. Like the butterfly effect, may these women somehow feel the impact of our love and devotion to all things woman, even from afar. May our radiant light ignite theirs. That was so beautiful.
Wow. Thank you.
And it is true that I find, in spa, we've built a pretty decent sized community and we're predominantly women. And there's so many more similarities than differences. And no matter what state we come from, what our political affiliation, what our religion, our race, our ethnicity, whatever, the core of wanting to belong and have that connection and wanting to be seen with other women, it's there.
Yes.
And so it's
true.
just such a beautiful thing when we can connect. You had a section in there too that was saying, like instead, like when you see a woman, see her as the goddess that she is.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows you just a different understanding, just a different perspective in how you're approaching, communicating, understanding her story, her perspective.
Yeah, so true. I found that most of us, I mean, we get unconsciously trained by the culture in the ways that we relate to other women. I remember I was walking through a really beautiful department store in New York called Bergdorf's. It's just such a gorgeous department store. And I saw a bunch of sales women gathered together talking. And I thought, well, I wonder if they're talking about like some new designer or some, incredible new clothing line, whatever. So I kind of went over to eavesdrop. And what I overheard was they were saying, my boss, I just hate my boss. I hate him too. He just doesn't get those women complaining. We have like a legacy of mutual victimization as women where we get together and it's easy for us to complain about our kids, our husbands that forgot our birthdays, our employees, our boss, rather than choosing to really acknowledge the good things. Because even when things are difficult, there's always way more. I mean, it's such a privilege just to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we, as women, don't relate as frequently on that frequency as we do on the level of sharing complaints or, oh, I just had the worst flu or whatever the storyline is. It's so I've found, through the different technologies and practices in my school, how easy it is for women to reorganize themselves around self-celebration.
Mm-hmm.
We want to actually makes us feel so much better. And it has so many consequences in the world. Because if suddenly you're feeling proud about even a simple thing like my boyfriend's coming over this evening. So I just had 30 minutes before our call and I was just in the kitchen and a friend of mine is staying over. And so I started to make muffins for him, gluten-free muffins. And she was like, oh, let me help you. So within like 10 minutes, we threw the whole thing together and I had a lot of fun. That was just like a great little experience. Now, the rest of my day, I was taking meetings. I'm in the middle of launching something. We're trying to get a support staff together. Like there's also challenges, but it's like claiming those little pockets of celebration that you couldn't have dreamed and changes your chemistry, which is a really important thing. Because once you can change your chemistry, you feel differently about yourself.
I know for myself personally, one of the big transformations, having 2 kids and I had big babies and I'm a very small person.
How big? How big are the
8 pounds. Both kids were over 8 pounds. I'm 5'5" and 110 pounds.
Oh gosh.
And not when I was pregnant, but I had 2 big babies and their heads were in the 98th percentile. And so for me, after my stomach.
Did you have vaginal delivery?
I did. Yeah.
You are a miracle. You are amazing.
But I felt like that after I read your book, because before I was like, oh my gosh, my stomach doesn't look like it used to. And it's all crinkly and because the skin got stretched out and whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then after I was like, I am amazing.
Yeah.
Like my body just knew what to do. So I love that. And I know in your school, the School of Womanly Arts, you, and I believe in your book, you had this practice. It was like a brag, a desire, and is it a gratitude or what are the?
Yeah, that's it. It's called a holy trinity.
Okay.
And
Tell
you
me
do
about that.
a brag and a gratitude and a desire. And it's such a great practice. I use it all the time. I have this women's group. We call ourselves the big women of Brooklyn, even though none of us are really very big. In fact, that's why we do. Like, I'm the tallest and I'm 5'4". So we when we get together, we want to catch up quickly, so what we do is we actually do 4-part. We do a swamp, then we do a brag, a gratitude, and a desire. Because a swamp is where you really reveal something very personal about a difficulty that you're having, and you share it. But we don't want to just end with the difficulty. So then you move immediately to a brag. And sometimes the brag can be about the same area that you're having a difficulty, because you might have found a way to work it to your advantage, or you're growing from the experience, or it might be something totally different. So bragging is a practice that I do in all of my classes always. And it is a practice of self-celebration, because we as women are so accustomed to sharing the negative and sharing the mutual victimizations. And that creates a negative suck. And if you brag, it shifts the energy. So just even a woman discerning, like, am I going to swamp or am I going to brag? She separates those two. And then she recognizes that she has choice. She doesn't always have to swamp. She doesn't always have to complain or join the discussion about that terrible cough or the third time she had COVID or whatever those things are that we are all experiencing right now. She can swamp about that, and then she can move to a brag, because there's always something, always a challenge for a woman, no matter where she is in her life. There's always something to celebrate. So that bragging, swamping, bragging, and then you move to gratitude, because once you've bragged, then it kind of opens a little window inside your soul. And then you realize, no, I'm really actually grateful for this particular time in my life where I am learning so much about myself and about my business or my kids or all the things. And you find something to be grateful for. Sometimes that can be the hardest if you're going through a really challenging time. Sometimes you could just be grateful that you're drawing another breath. And then finally, it's great to end with a desire. Because once you've kind of shifted your chemistry from swamping to bragging to gratitudes, and you start turning on all those neurotransmitters like beta endorphin, prolactin, serotonin, all those things, you're lighting up your system, then you're in a really good place to create a desire. So even imagining into something you want, and maybe something little, like you wish that the next time you go out to a bar, you get to flirt with somebody. That might be a fun thing. Or it could be you wish that a friend will call you, or you'll get a fun Christmas invitation. Or it could be something really big, like you want to do whatever you can to make sure that the climate crisis is controlled in your lifetime, or you want to get married or have a baby or fall in love, those things that women long for. So we just add a desire to the mix. And then the beautiful part is it's witnessed by someone. And whenever you have a desire witnessed, it gives it power. So, because that's how we create reality, is with, when you just think of something you want inside yourself. But when another person witnesses, it's almost like they'll immediately start thinking, oh, I know a great place where you could meet a new guy. Yes. I know, actually, I know somebody I want to introduce you to. So I think it's great when people blow out the birthday candles I always make them tell me what I wished for. Because then who knows, maybe I can help, or all the people that are surrounding the birthday cake can also help.
So this sounds like such a lifetime of personal development and so much knowledge and so much wisdom. Mm-hmm. And this started with you exploring your sexuality.
Yeah, that is the key.
And
that's the whole key.
Right. And I feel like sexuality for women is either expressed in one way or not talked about in another way. It's like how you see it in movies.
Yeah.
Or you're looked at as an object or something like that. It's almost taking the power away. So you went through this journey yourself, exploring your own sexuality, exploring what that meant to you, studying under different teachers and so on. But in that journey, you were really able to learn about what it is to be human, what it is to be a woman, and so much more than, not to diminish the role sexuality plays in humanness, but it's so much more well-rounded than, like, when I first started showing my friends this book, they're like, I don't need to read a book about sex. And I was like, there's sexuality in there, but there's so much more about just the well-rounded piece. So what advice do you have for women that are maybe uncomfortable to explore sexuality or talk about sexuality for themselves? Like, what is a baby step or something that they can do? Because it is so much more in your relationships with your spouse or partner, your business.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's an area of our lives that's almost like forbidden to talk about.
Yeah.
Or we have so much judgment about ourselves. Like, are we having the right kinds of sensual or sexual connections, or
too much or too little, or
is somebody else having a better sensual experience with her husband or her lover than you are, or her girlfriend? So it's a difficult thing because there's so much conditioning that would have us not speak about it, which is actually why I called the book Pussy. Because I thought, let's just get this over with in the title. I was actually really scared to write a book called Pussy. I had a lot of fear because I thought, I'll just get so criticized, or press won't understand it, or I'll get a lot of pushback. Because that's such a word with such negative connotations. But I also like the fact that it was like a little bit of a crack upside the head, where when you give a woman a copy of that book, you get an immediate readout. It's almost like a printed report of where she's at with her sex and sexuality and comfort inside of her own body. And so a woman that says, oh no, I don't need anything like that, that she needs it desperately.
It's so funny. All the girls that I gave the book to at the event, they were traveling the next day and they put it on the top of their luggage. And they're like, oh yeah, when TSA opened the book and saw it and just zipped it back up. And they were like doing it on purpose to get a reaction.
It is so much fun to do that. Like, I've gotten photos of women reading it on the New York City subway, on airplanes, like sitting in the park with the cover out.
Yep.
I couldn't have imagined that. I thought people would put like a, paper cover like on top of it, but it actually somehow, it's fun. And
it's a New York Times bestseller. So you did something right.
True. But I think it's women love to be a little rebellious. We like to be like ever so badass. So it does work. And I think that it's an opening, even if somebody gives you tremendous pushback, right? When you give her a copy of it, it's just like an opening for a conversation. Okay, give me that book back. I'm not lending it to you. No. And don't ever ask me again. I'm not, because it's just playful. And she'll become more interested, actually.
So is there anything else that I'm not asking that you feel like our listeners should know about this book, about your message, about the impact you want to make?
I think that one of the most important things is that, when you start on a journey of expanding your pleasure, it is scary. It is terrifying. It is emotional. When women have such complex relationships with their bodies and with their pussies, I do a very casual survey. If I'm leading a room of 1,000 or 2,000 women, I'll say, stand up if you've ever had either physical, emotional, verbal, psychological, or sexual abuse. And about 90, somewhere between 95 and 97% of women stand up.
Yeah.
So our pussies have been violated, through a lot of ignorance on our own part. When a woman who owns her pussy owns her life. She doesn't own her pussy. She does not own her life. She does not know how to say no when she means no. She does not know how to say yes when she means yes. She just freezes. And thus the hashtag Me Too generation that we're experiencing now, where so many women are coming forward saying, I was abused, I was date raped, this did happen to me. So I think that when you begin to open up that topic, you're inviting a woman to really connect with parts of herself that have very strong emotional responses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not personal, it's just where we are. And it's not about being scared of the emotional response. Like as women, we are capable of a huge range of emotions. We're capable of raging, grieving, being wildly jealous. Like being exquisitely filled with joy. Like we have a huge emotional range, and our emotions we can handle them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more that a woman starts to accept her pussy, her sexuality, the more she accepts the fullness of her emotional range. And she doesn't think something's wrong with her when she's having a really strong emotion. She knows, like, oh yeah, shit, this is creating a really strong response, and I am going to feel every drop. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like a woman's relationship with her pussy is like a hologram to her relationship with every part of herself. The more comfortable she is with her sex, her sexuality, the more confident she is in the world, the more right she feels about her light and dark emotions, the more just powerful she feels in her voice. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't necessarily think that pussy would be the portal for that. You would think that, getting a master's degree in public speaking would be, but it's not. You can have any degree you want from anywhere, but if you don't own your pussy, you do not own your life. So it's super important. And it's also important to recognize if a woman is interested in going down this road and learning about her body, it's going to be the greatest adventure of her life. And it's going to connect her spiritually to her divinity in a way that she's never been connected. Because, if you think about it, pussy is where the human and the divine meet. That's where life is created. We get to hold hands with the divine in that ability to give birth, whether we give birth through our own bodies or we give birth to big dreams and desires and create big change in the world. But it's a process of plugging into your erotic sovereignty and your life force and your power. So it is an adventure like no other. And I think a really important adventure for women to say yes to and to take ownership of themselves.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So where is the best place? I know everyone is going to go and buy the book. If you haven't gotten it already, where can they get the book? What's the best place?
Oh, anywhere, any bookstore, anywhere, Amazon, everywhere. Any Barnes and Noble. Yeah. One of the things that I'm so grateful for is it continues to sell really well, even all, it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's still, I think what's happening, this is what happens. This is exactly what happened to you.
Yeah. Just
a woman will be like,
yeah,
I found this book. I got to pass it on to my girlfriends.
Yeah. And it starts a ripple effect.
It does. It does. And it's good. So, it's like a good little gift for the holidays or for birthdays.
You better believe it. I know a lot of ladies that are getting pussy for Christmas.
Oh my God, that's so cute. There's one more thing I want to leave women with is if you have a daughter please use the name of her actual genitalia. Don't use a nickname. Don't teach her that she has a little Miss Kitty or a sissy or a front bottom. Use the word vulva.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we started doing that. Yeah.
I am glad. It's super important because when a little girl feels that there's a part of herself that can't be spoken about, she starts feeling shame about her body.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all have chance as a mom to just tell our kids the truth, and to tell little boys. Like, little boys should know that girls have vulvas. They should know that about the clitoris. It would help so much. I know you and I have probably dated people that had no idea about those things. And if their mothers had only told them, it would have been so good.
It is. It's eye-opening. And, I feel like, for me, it was a blessing. I had my kids at 36 and 39, and being an older mom and just being more aware. I know some people are younger moms, and that's great for them. But for me, I don't think I was emotionally ready to be in that space where I can teach my daughter the things that I want to teach, and my son the things that I want to teach her. But yeah, we started calling it a vulva. She's allowed, it's like you're allowed to touch yourself whenever you want. You don't touch other private parts without their permission, because they're at that age that, do whatever you want to yourself. Just don't touch your brother.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fun. They're 5 and 2. So it's,
so sweet.
Just learning about all those things.
So good. So good, Daniela.
So where else can people find you, follow you? They want to learn about you and everything that you do.
Yeah, they could come to my website where whatever course I'm teaching is announced. It's www.mamagenas.com, MAMAGENAS.com.
Perfect. And we'll link that up below here for sure.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I have, I'm just about to launch my very first teacher training program to teach other women who might want to be coaches or facilitators, or they just want to be pussy empowered leaders, to take my teacher training. It's a 6-month program starting in January.
How cool.
It's so cool. I'm so excited. And then in the spring, I'm going to be teaching a course called Virtual Pleasure Bootcamp, which is incredible. It's like an 8-week immersion into just plugging into all of these tools, arts, your power as a woman, your sensuality, and it's so much fun. So some nice things coming up.
Very good. Well, we'll link everything up underneath here, under this video. Thank you so much. I so appreciate your time, your energy, the words and the work that you're putting out into the world, and everything that you're doing for women.
Thank you, Daniela. It's such a pleasure. Happy holidays. Have a great time in Hawaii. And thank you for the privilege of being with you today.
Oh, thank you.